24. Inasahan ito na mag-exit ng Philippine Area of Responsibility on Friday, October 25. Now, we expect also na the storm will slightly intensify into a severe tropical storm bago po ito mag-landfall in the area. And then, upon crossing northern Luzon, nasa natin na mag-weaken slightly. Next slide, please. What to expect in terms of heavy rainfall? Inasa natin today ang intense to torrential rainfall, more than 200 millimeters of rain sa mga lalawigan ng Cagayan, Isabela, Apayao, Aurora, Quezon, Catanduanes, Camarines Norte, and Camarines Sur. While heavy to intense rainfall, the rest of Cagayan Valley, the rest of Caldera Administrative Region, Ilocos Region, Rizal, Albay, and Sorsogon. While moderate to heavy rainfall today, the rest of Central Luzon, Calabarzon, including Metro Manila, Occidental Mindoro, Oriental Mindoro, Marinduque, Romblon, Calamian Islands, Masbate, and Northern Samar. For tomorrow, inasahan natin na napakalakas ng mga pag-ulan sa mga lalawigan ng Pampanga, Pangasinan, Zambales, and La Union. Samantala, heavy to intense rain, the rest of Ilocos Region, Car, and Bataan. While moderate to heavy rains tomorrow in Tarlac, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, Bulacan, Metro Manila, Cavite, Batangas, and Occidental Mindoro. Now, on Friday, we expect a gradual improvement of the weather, but moderate to heavy rains ay amasahan pa rin sa mga lalawigan ng Pangasinan, Zambales, and La Union dahil during this day, in-expect natin na lalabas na po ang bagyong si Kristine. Next slide, please po. In terms of severe winds, dahil sa malawak ang circulation na sakop ng Kristine, even those hindi sakop ng signal, storm wind signal, even in Mindanao, ay nasa natin na makakaranas na malakas na hangin. No? For today, Mimaropa, Visayas, and Mindanao. For tomorrow, ito po yung mga lugar or provinces na makakaranas na malalakas na hangin. And on Friday as well. Next slide, please. Dahil po inasahan natin mga lugar na under signal number 2 habang papalapit ang bagyong Kristine sa kalupaan ng Northern and Central Luzon, nasa natin ang storm surge. No? Nagpalabas ang DOST Pag-asa ng storm surge warning. Ang orange colored, ito po yung mga dalampasigan na makakaranas ng storm surge na between 2 to 3 meters. Kaya ipinapayuhan natin ang ating mga kababayan living along these coastal areas na maghanda o maging alerto. While yung nakadilaw, ito po yung up to 2 meters wave height dahil sa storm surge. Next slide, please. Now, ito naman po ang status ng ating mga dams. Although generally, mga dams level natin ay safe. But like for example, ang GAT, bagamat umakyat ng 0.34 meters, but ang normal high level niya ay mataas pa.
Yeah. This is the one we should be keeping an eye on. There are 2 pages to this actually. So far, ang pinakamalapit is Pantabangan to the high level, normal high water level, if I'm not mistaken. Nonetheless, whatever it is, meron pa yata dito. 80.5. Anyway, we have to watch this carefully because we're just beginning. This is just the start of the rainfall. So yes, we're all right for now, but mukhang inevitable na mag-overflow o magre-release tayo ng tubig. So let's already start thinking about the downstream areas na tatamaan when we release when we are forced to open some of the gates para palabasin para pababain yung tubig. Pero planuhin natin na mabuti. Maybe if what we can do is do a measured response kahit hindi pa high water level, magbitaw na tayo ng kaunti, pababain na natin na hindi apektado yung mga downstream communities. Magbitaw na tayo ng tubig para pagdating ng malakas na ulan, mababa na, hindi naman mababa, pero mas naibaba natin yung tubig para meron tayong konting ah, ano, meron tayong konting breathing room. Ika nga. We have a little area that to watch na hindi papaabutin natin sa high water. Well, it is the yan, gate open. Wala pa naman so far.
Mr. President,
Yes, yes.
that's
thank
continued spillage already
you. Yeah.
for Vinga and
Yes.
Bagan.
So let's think about what can the downstream communities tolerate in terms of additional water, and do that and try to release that amount, just that amount na hindi magkaka-damage, hindi magkakapinsala, hindi mababaha, yung kaya nung actual na outflow na hindi na abala yung mga downstream communities. In other words, let's try to get the levels as low as we can without affecting the downstream communities bago pa dumating yung malaking ulan. Because from what we are looking at, it really looks like this storm is more about flooding. May hangin ng konti, but it's not to the extent of the other super typhoons that we have seen so far. So again, water level seems to be the key factor for Kristine. All right, so please carry on.
That's all, Mr. President,
all right.
for my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, the OCD, I think, has some information to provide with us.
Good morning, Mr. President
Good
and
morning.
Cabinet members. So, may I have the presentation, please, for Office of Civil Defense. Next slide, please. So, the scope of the presentation would be the situation overview, or and then the humanitarian effects, the response, and the gaps. Next slide. This has already been presented by the Pag-asa. So, next slide, please. So basically, Mr. President and Cabinet members, you've seen already in the reports that the massive flooding and unprecedented flooding happened in Region 5. Although, because of the massive or the circulation and the rain band, it also affected other areas. You would see that the darker parts are the severity of the flooding events, specifically in Region 5. And if you would look at it, more than 23,000 more than 150,000 has been affected. Next slide. And in terms of casualties, very minimal as of this point in time. And there was already the suspension of classes and the declaration of state of calamity. Next slide. And in terms of status of lifelines, as of this point in time as well, as of reporting time, still as minimal as that. But I think the most important thing to look at, and especially and as the reports come in or the information comes in, it would be the damages on agriculture and even of the livelihood assets of the people. Next slide. Yes, sir.
Can we go one back?
Yes, sir.
One page back.
The previous slide, please.
All right. This is yung status of lifelines is something important that we have to monitor na mabuti.
Yes.
Simply because we are going to have to go into the storm affected areas at some point. So what we have to know for our own people is what are the roads that are possible, what are not, what need to be opened, i-prioritize natin kasi as it is already 93 out of 106 road sections are not passable. Seaports out of 34 in Calabarzon are non-operational. 34 out of 34 are non-operational. 10 out of 10 bridges in Region 5. So talagang it's isolated. The whole region actually is to a great extent is isolated.
So basically, some of the inactivity of the seaports and other communication lines were precautionary measures
Yes,
that has been
understood.
undertaken.
Yeah.
And well noted, sir, on what you've mentioned, that we're still going to see more of the effects
Yeah.
later on as the storm passes. As what as what has been mentioned by Pag-asa, there's a lot of coverage in terms of areas to be affected still, and these are still initial reports po. And some of them are precautionary measures being undertaken.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned, there would still a lot to see in terms of damages and losses to agriculture, specifically to the livelihoods of people. And maybe that would be the next part on what to do next. Next slide. And in terms of response, of course, in immediate response, because it's flooding, of course, the need for rubber boats and water search and rescue has been identified early on. And I think one of the issues that we have right now, which we'll be seeing in the later slides, would be the need for logistics to transport, sir. Not just to transport people, but to evacuate people from harm's way. You know? So next slide. And these are the additional needs that we're looking at. And as what I mentioned, that the gaps, until this morning, there were already requests for additional rubber boats. That's why Office of Civil Defense has already been coordinating with some areas, specifically with Region 6 or Region 7, if there would be available rubber boats to augment the requirement in Region 5. And for those areas that has not been affected yet, where the storm is about to cross, they are already prepositioned more water search and rescue equipment. Of course, because of this massive flooding and expected to be more, of which water sanitation and hygiene would be affected, specifically the groundwater or the drinking water as well, and even water for domestic use. Food and NFIs, food specifically would be needed again in the coming days because of the evacuation that has happened, especially in the evacuation centers. NFIs in terms of shelter kits, shelter repair kits, and also some of the kitchen kits that would be needed, especially with the house that has been affected, even the second floor areas. So understandably, there would be more requests for NFIs. I mentioned already about the shelter repair kits. Where Office of Civil Defense and also with the Secretary of National Defense, Chair NDRRMC, have already given some kind of additional guidance to the Office of Civil Defense to seek or to somewhat consider the request for international assistance for augmentation on logistic requirements, specifically for transport. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, please.
Because I instructed our staff to make their own estimates of the possible effects of the rain in the coming days. We have the available assets to answer for lift capabilities as of this time. However, in the exercise of caution, we are planning two things to foresee the effects in the coming days. In the aftermath of the disaster risk convention, we are coordinating now with our ASEAN neighbors. I have already talked to our Singaporean ambassador to marshal their capabilities for airlift and other manpower assistance that they can pitch in. And we will talk to our traditional partners in the next few days in anticipation of airlift needs and other rescue needs, Mr. President.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So, Mr. President, we've been, from Pag-asa, what we're doing here in Office of Civil Defense is to manage the information that we're getting. So we come up with likely scenarios. So the regions 1, 2, and 3, and CAR, and Calabarzon, since the storm has not passed them yet, we're still expecting actually, it's not just a likely scenario, the worst case scenario for this matter. When we do our contingency plan, we would always come up with a worst case scenario. So as what the Secretary of National Defense had mentioned, we're looking at planning for the next time, for the next few days. And this is what we're looking into, that there would be gradual intensification, and these are the areas that would be affected. Regions 1, 2, 3, CAR, Calabarzon, In terms of wind damage, not so much, but in terms of flood or water damages. And actually, what we are also most concerned, these areas, especially Batanes or the northernmost part of the country, has been already affected recently by tropical cyclone Julian. And I think they haven't much recovered yet. Actually, they're also still requesting for some NFIs. And these are the hazards that we are considering as far as the passage of this tropical cyclone would be in those areas. So, next slide, please. So we are
Mr.
expecting
President,
more.
if I may, just one.
Yes,
Mr. President, if I may,
Yes, please, go
the
ahead.
previous slide. So, Mr. President, what you see there is an image of a combined rainfall and flood and landslide risk analysis from the Mines and Geoscience Bureau of the DNR. So that's barangay scale, sir. So we can actually look at the level of risk
All right. And
to the
what is it?
barangay. So we have a listing that we supply to OCD in terms of the potential.
Also, that's how it's done.
Yes, sir. It's a combined model
Alright.
for weather, landslide, and flood risk together down to the barangay scale. Yes, sir.
All right.
So,
we can count on this data.
so basically, sir, based on all of those information, flood risk, landslide risk, we are able to translate that on the number of most vulnerable people that could be affected wherever. And that is coming from the information coming from the SWD. So we are the most vulnerable. We're looking at the listahanan as an information coming from the SWD, and this would be the reference for the planning figure for our response. Next slide. And since there was also preparations being done in Batanes, this is an example of a response ex ante. Before a tropical cyclone would come, this is very much Filipino culturally recognized. There are already strengthening houses. That is happening as of now as of yesterday or even 2 days ago in Batanes. Once they receive their information, I think this is a very important, a classic example of how we prepare for tropical cyclones if wind damage would be expected. But nevertheless, this is how it is being done right now. Next slide. That's all, Mr. President.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. It looks pretty clear that this one is more about the volume of water that's going to be dropped in the areas. And unfortunately, I think it would be prudent to consider that we are only beginning. This is just the beginning. Now we're experiencing the same phenomenon that I have been commenting on all of us have been noticing. Ang bilis mag-develop ng bagyo. It was just a low pressure area, and now look at what is the strength of it. And the volume of water the volumes of water are unprecedented. Okay, so yun ang kailangan natin bantayan. So question, DSW, how nakapag-forward placement ba tayo?
Mr. President, I knew you were going to ask that. I have one slide and one
Okay,
slide lang
please.
if we can pull it up.
Yeah.
Mr. President, we're back to the 2 million mark. This is the national stockpile. The red number is the total number of stockpiled goods nationwide, 2 million.
Alright.
This was pre-Karina level. We had a very good run ng production
Yes.
this past couple of weeks. Now, if Mr. President, NROC is our Pasay hub. So we have around 176,000. Our Visayas hub has around 250,000. That's family food packs. Now, NCR must content, Mr. President, because we draw from the Pasay hub anyway. But the identified regions have very high stockpiles. Region 1 has 93,000. Region 2 has 109,000. Region 3 has 170,000. 4A 101, 4B 101. And then before this tail of Karina hit us, we had close to 162,000 in Bicol. So as of yesterday, Mr. President, we started distributing already and we continue to distribute. Now we're already in the replenishment stage. Our Pasay hub is running at 20,000 a day so that when the stockpiles of these offices go down, we can keep on sending them.
All right. Are there areas still that we cannot reach?
Mr. President, I was over the phone with the mayor of Naga. In fact, Naga alone, marami pang roads na impassable. Then I was exchanging messages with Gong Elry yesterday.
Do we know kung why is it impossible? Nasira ba yung daan o nag-landslide?
Mainly,
Tubig lang.
mainly for localized flooding, Mr. President.
Okay.
But I'm happy to report, Mr. President, that the Maharlika Highway, except for the section of Calbayog City, the entire Maharlika Highway up to Manila now is passable now. Except there is one section in Milaor, which is actually only heavy vehicles can pass by now. But I understand from the report of my regional director just now, that the rains have simmered down a little bit, so there is a good chance that by this afternoon, the entire traffic will be restored along Maharlika Highway. However, there are many road sections, secondary road sections, that remain to be closed for now because of localized flooding, and may mga soil collapse, Mr. President. But our people now are in the field actually taking out all this debris and to restore the traffic immediately, Mr. President.
To give us a better, can we have the map again of Pag-asa of the track of the storm? I think this is going to be our best guide on what. Can I have the map? Can we have the map that you put up earlier? It is the Pag-asa map of. There you go. Okay, so this is what we can expect by Wednesday. By 5 p.m. today, it will be off the eastern coast. It will not. The center of the storm will not have landed yet. And again, what is your forecast for landfall? What time and what place?
It's about 8 later this evening, Mr. President, or early morning tomorrow.
And
From around 8
Aurora, pero
8
hindi, ang
p.m.
landfall Aurora kamo.
Yes, Aurora
Alright, so
area,
that's
province.
it. And then this is if it's going at what speed? 15 kilometers an hour?
85 kilometers per
Huh?
hour.
No,
Wind,
that's the storm.
the speed is 15 kilometers
15
per hour.
kilometers an
Mr.
hour.
President.
So ganyan ang magiging takbo. Usually we are pretty accurate as long as the storm has fully developed. We're pretty accurate. So ito yung kailangan nating abangan. These are the areas that, for example, I think we can start pag lumalayo na sa Bicol, sa Region 5, pwede na natin gawin lahat ng pwede natin gawin. Pero wag na natin pasukin muna ang Region 1, Region 2 dahil parating pa lang. So pabayaan mo na, there's nothing we can do except wait for it to pass. Give all the warnings that we can give. Evacuate as many people as we can. But we really have to just batten down the hatches for a day. And make sure that everybody has what they need. Everybody has the emergency supplies. Meron silang ilaw, meron silang tubig. But maybe we'll have to shut that down. Pero wag na sana tumagal masyado. But in the meantime, mag-isip na tayo how we are when we can go in with our equipment for the public works and to open to open all the thoroughfares. Once they are open, if they're not open, we will look to SND.
Yes, sir.
to fly it in, perhaps, if that's the best that we can do. Patulong din tayo, we can ask the Coast Guard also. The Coast Guard also plays a part in that naman. So mag-ready na tayo. But all of us should have this map in our office looking at this, and this is what we have to anticipate.
Just to go
Yes,
back to your
yes.
earlier, so bottom line, we plotted that all our field offices
Yeah.
have ample supply in those areas.
Yeah.
Actually, we went back to pre-Karina level, so our stockpile is quite strong. Okay ho tayo on the ground.
Alright. The problem is that it is not such a strong storm, but the effects are very wide. Kung titignan mo, layo ng Bicol actually doon sa center of the storm. Pero I've seen the news reports, ang laki ng tubig eh. Marami talagang binagsak na tubig. It's wide-ranging. Kahit na hindi 85 kilometers, we can prepare for that. Tapos dahil nga na madalas yung bagyo, na-saturate na ang lupa. So what we have to anticipate now, let's all prepare with whatever yung mga equipment ng DPWH, yung mga airlift ng AFP, yung mga relief goods and kung ano man, whatever all the other that we are doing.
Mr. President.
John Vic, we nakapag everybody is well informed naman.
Yes, sir.
Those areas that are under that
Yes, sir.
that circle.
Out of the 1,252 LCEs, 87 are present in their municipalities. Unaccounted for 175, they're either on medical or foreign travel.
Okay.
But all of it informed that all have activated their disaster response scenarios.
Sir, if I may.
Yes, yes.
Sir, on the parts of the DNR, we've also reached out to the private sector, to the mining industry. So they are now informed that they may be called to assist in response and recovery, probably rescue if need be, since they have the technical equipment and they have the manpower to perform rescue in terms of possible landslide and other situations. We've also asked and coordinated with the Philippine Space Agency. They've activated also image acquisition so we can actively monitor the extent of the impacts.
From Pag-asa, the data from that is coming in from space agencies incorporated to your in your forecast. Oh, kasama yan eh. Ang pagkaintindi ko kasama talaga.
Yes, Mr. President.
That's
We have
the main function of sometimes our satellites.
we have access from meteorological satellites
Yeah.
actually
All
from
right.
Japan. And,
No, that's right. We need to get all the best data that we can. I think we're reasonably well prepared. The power is going to go out, whatever we do. We just follow our regular procedure. We take take down the power when it is not safe.
Yes, Mr. President.
To keep the cables energized.
Yes. Mr.
And
President,
then come back.
we have 16 electric cooperatives which are partially out of power. 4 are completely without power, including Sorsogon, Biliran, and as far down as Siargao. So,
Yes, I know. I was surprised to
Right.
hear.
So NEA is already coordinating and so far as rehabilitating the ones in the Bicol region. 69 kV lines have been affected also in a number of areas. So NGCP, as you said, will be coming in as the weather situation improves. Thank you.
Yes. Well, again, we turn the power off precisely to keep it safe, and then go back and take a look at the damage, see how we can repair it. There's sometimes a tendency in these areas because we say bring the power back immediately, So jerry-rigged lang yung mga ginagawa nila, but then it becomes permanent, and that makes the the system frail, not robust. I don't know how we get around that because talagang there's a very, very strong demand. Balik na yung kuryente kaagad, as quickly as possible, bilis. So kung ano-ano na lang ginagawa. That's really that. Kaya yung mga nakikita niyo yung wire na bulbul, yun eh. Oh, dahil nagmamadali. Basta kahit pa paano, sige, basta ilagay mo dyan. Sige. Magsushort yan, di na bale, basta ilagay mo. Oh, sige, okay na yan. Tapos, dapat babalikan, pero hindi na binabalikan. So we have to be conscious of that so that we make our systems more robust.
We take note of that, Mr. President. Yeah.
Oo nga. Oo. All right. Well, again, as health, you'll go in as soon as you can. Basically, we cannot, we can start to go in. I don't know. Depends also on public works and the availability of airlift. But we cannot go in right now. Maybe parts of Bicol, baka maumpisahan na natin. Baka pwede nang lumipad ang helicopter or something like that para makapasok man lang na makapag-report na mabuti kung ano yung sitwasyon. But the point right now is that the storm is actually still off of our coast. It's not yet hasn't made landfall yet. So the worst is yet to come, I'm afraid. So let's all prepare. Let's just all prepare so that the minute that we get the signal that it's okay to go in, we'll all be able to go in. Doesn't mean that that signal will be the same for everyone. Of course, the airlift will go in first, and then once the public works has been able to open at least the main thoroughfares, then everything else will go in. Health will go in, the relief goods will go in, and wala tayong magagawa if we just. I'm feeling a little helpless here because we cannot. All we can do is sit tight, wait, hope, pray that there's not too much damage, that there are no casualties. And then go in as soon and as quickly as possible with as much as we can to alleviate the effects to, especially first to the population, and then afterwards we will take care of all the other infrastructure, the power, the roads. Let's watch again those dams because we don't want the situation that happened in the Cagayan Valley. We're just released without telling anyone, and there was no plan. And we all remember what happened there. So iwasan natin yun. But let's anticipate. Let's be proactive about it. Let's not wait for the levels to reach the maximum. Kung kaya, mag-release na tayo ng kahit kaunti lang para hindi biglaan na makapag-release, para hindi mag-overflow. So let's think in those terms that we'll plan ahead. All the dams that we think will be affected, let's think about already releasing some water, so that when the real water comes, it will be not as bad. Yeah. What else? What have we missed? What? Yes. Yes, Andy.
Mr. President, since this is a big, it will need big logistics, and coming from areas which are not affected, we would encourage coordination to keep the roadways in the areas not affected free, so that our trucks and other vehicles can freely move. And so we will be working closely with the Executive Secretary to recommend suspension of work or classes in the areas where we need to marshal our logistics just to keep the roadways free, Mr. President.
Well, like in any, the first responders are going to be the local governments. Silang una talaga makakapasok dyan. Let's be sure that kung meron talagang request for assistance, that we will try and give them the assistance. Kasi meron talagang mga bagay, meron talagang mga problema na hindi kaya ng local government o kulang ang local government. They need more. So let's make sure na may maganda yung coordination natin at saka yung sa mga lokal na tumawag sila, magsabi sila kung ano yung pangyayari.
As a present, Congressman El Rey already conveyed this need for assistance as soon as possible, sir.
Yeah, all right. So we'll just stay very in close contact with them so that we know what their situation is, and if there's there will be they have an emergency request for augmentation of some kind, di ba? Para maka-respond kaagad ang national.
Mr. President.
Yes, Secretary.
Well, Mr. President, I think for clearing of roads, we're happy to report also that there is no bridge that collapsed actually.
Okay.
So I think as soon as the water subsides in the locally flooded areas, our response teams will now be able to enter into clearing all the debris and like fallen trees and other materials inside. As soon as we are able to clear all the national secondary roads, we will coordinate also with the local governments where they would need actually the assistance of the department for clearing out the roads inside the local roads, Mr. President.
All right. The other thing is there was how do you call this? An offer. Again, rather a communication from MMDA for the water purifiers. Rex? Yan yung water purifier. Kasi wala si Benhar eh.
Sir, yung balde ho,
Well, there's that. And then yung dinadala na pinapasok natin yung galing MMDA.
Yes, sir.
Yung backpack na water purifier.
yes sir, I'll make the call sa
Yeah,
MMDA.
you coordinate
Yes,
with
sir.
them. Because again, we're going to run into that situation where water supply is critical. Baka magkasakit na yung mga tao sa water supply. So
I'll make the call sa MMDA.
yeah, you coordinate with them so that where we immediately need it, and then we can do again the balde.
Yes sir, we're sending na rin,
Yeah.
sir.
How many do we send? I don't know if it's the same as in the time in Yolanda, but in the time of Yolanda, when we brought those the filtration system in, that was good for 100 people per day.
Sir, it's almost the same kasi
Yeah.
ang ginagawa niya per evacuation center. So they cluster, let's say, 3 rooms, depending on how many are inside a room. The one I showed you was parang 100.
Yun.
Same,
That
same,
looks
same,
the
sir.
same as the
Yes,
one that we had
yes, sir.
in
It's still the
Yolanda.
same. So we're sending it over there, sir.
Yeah. Sige. So, but how many? How do we ratio it?
So it depends on the number of evacuees that we have and the number
So
of
doon na lang
evacuation
yun, that's
center.
what we take.
That's where we get the ratio, sir.
Okay. Yeah, and it's simple enough. How was your experience in Basco in Batanes?
Sir, okay naman. Wala naman untoward incident afterwards.
Pero nagamit talaga
Nagamit
nila.
ho nila, sir. In fact, we augmented pa some more. They asked us to bring
That-
some more.
That's a good sign.
Yes.
That means it's really effective. So let's keep that in mind. And then of course the MMDA has their
So I'll call MMDA right after.
SPs.
Sir,
Yes.
if I may, sir, the evacuation areas will have no electricity and no communication. Do they have access to the Starlink system so that they can have internet at least for communication? Are we prepared for that?
Usually the cell sites continue to operate, but it's not happening.
During a typhoon, sir,
saan
a lot
ang,
of them stop.
Saan yung mga area na hindi natin walang communication?
We will know pretty soon, but I think Albay is pretty hard hit now. So I think in terms of preparation for the coming typhoons, maybe we should advance purchase and stockpile on the Starlink, sir. So
But that will, again, ganun din, kasama yan eh. Meron na tayong kasamang communication na dinadala.
yes, sir.
We put up some kind of satellite system. Dati truck pa yan eh. Yung malaking dish
That's
na
right.
yun, maliliit na lang.
Maliit na lang yun, sir.
So, yun ang but it will again depend on the accessibility. So maybe on the first airlifts, we can include kahit yung basic lang na communication system.
Yes, sir.
Kasi pagkaalam ko, ang mga cell site, mabilis bumalik because they have their own power. They have their own power supply. And they're able to do that. So, but nonetheless, we still have to put in, especially for government offices,
Yes, sir.
for the local relief response, para masabi sa atin what do we need. And even when they send our people in, they have to report back to us and tell us what's happening. Yes, Arya.
Sir, with regard to the water filtration machine, of MMDA. This is the 6,000 liter per day machine. Nag-procure na rin tayo, sir, ng 34
okay.
similar machines so we can also deploy.
Nandito na, nasa atin na.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. President, we'll
Ayan.
just coordinate with...
Very useful yun. That turns out to have been a very useful piece of
Yes, sir.
equipment. Kasi nag-ano. All right. Okay, what else? What else? What else have we missed? Yes,
Mr. President, in terms of the airlift capability, we already have alerted most of our aircraft. But yesterday we also coordinated with our U.S. counterparts, and they are ready to send in their aircraft using our EDCA sites.
yes.
And then if other countries are coming in, we will also establish our multinational coordinating centers.
Yes, there was mention of the international assistance. How do we? I'm sure maraming mag-offer, but we have to coordinate it also. What were you saying that we are in communication with other international agencies?
Actually, sir, the Secretary of National Defense has already made some kind of guidance to Office of Civil Defense in that regard.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
We have to establish first the protocols before the actual deployment of military assets, sir. With Singapore, I already talked to Ambassador
Oh yeah,
Xi.
you told, yeah. So you
And
said-
then we are reaching out to Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia as the closest neighbors. In addition to the partner nations.
Well, this is where we make full use of the ADCA sites, well, especially for the activities ng AFP, pag airlift. And, all right. Okay,
Mr. President,
yes, Secretary.
maybe I'd just like also to announce, we actually just got recently verified for 3 international medical teams, level 1. So this is a 30-man team, complete with wash facilities for outpatient care. I plan to deploy it, one in Bicol,
Yeah.
the other one in northern and central Luzon, para ready to deploy healthcare with
Oh,
the
I
whole
see.
team. Ano yun, first country po tayong na recognize ng WHO with 3 teams in one verification. 5 taon na po nating tinatrabaho to. And then the first team actually already was deployed in Turkey during the earthquake a few years ago. So it's a international verification. Gamitin ko na for our national
Oh,
deployment.
very good. Okay, that's what we need. All right. Okay, once again, what have we forgotten? Ano pa? Ano pang? Yan, si Sec Jimmy. Yes, and because how many? They are all lahat ng ports have been
Yes, sir.
have closed for
Yes, sir.
for safety reasons.
There were 5,329 stranded passengers.
Yeah, I
Mr.
was looking at that. I was watching the news earlier today. Yung mga stranded na passengers, ang problema ng PPA, hindi nila mabigyan ng relief
Yes,
dahil
sir.
wala naman sila pambigay.
Yes, sir.
In fact, the person that was being interviewed said, baka kung gawin namin yung makuha kami. So,
Yes, sir.
should DSWD
Actually,
should
operate, sir.
do that.
Sir, we do.
Kasi wala naman sa brief ng PPA na magbigay ng release.
Yes,
Sir, actually, sa
papalugaw na lang daw sila.
Yes, sir.
Sir, sa standard operating procedure, even in Bicol Port yesterday, in Macnog, we were there. We do hot meals. Sir, hindi yung family food pack kasi hindi nila makakain yun dahil wala namang cooking facility.
Oh.
We do warm meals on site.
Okay. Oh, good. Because marami rin ba yung stranded eh?
There were 5,329 stranded passengers, sir, in different ports, plus 994 vehicles that should take the Roro, so they cannot sail because of this typhoon. No?
All right.
Yeah.
But the ports are shut down because of the weather. So we have no forecast when they can operate again. Non-operational lahat doon sa area. Yeah.
Coast Guard will give the clearance if they can sail already, no?
Yes, Admiral.
Yes. Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
President. As soon as the area is cleared from the weather signal, we will lift the suspension of sea travel. But in the meantime, along the path, no sail po.
Yeah,
It
well,
is being
better safe than sorry.
But nonetheless, Mr. President, there are some ports in Bicol which can be accessed just in case po na there's a need for us to bring in supplies. The port of Pasacao can be accessed by smaller ships. And we are actually preparing 3 ships now to assist OCD or this WD in case they need our help.
Sir, if I may, I just got a call from Congressman El Rey. Out of 600 barangays in Naga, 300 are fully submerged. 1,000 fully submerged. Unpassable by cars, and they are in urgent need of rubber boats and 6x6 trucks to evacuate people. And it's just beginning, so
Well, for them, in Kamsur, medyo
Paalis na.
Medyo
Yes, sir.
palabas na. Pero
So-
for the rest of Luzon,
yes,
it's not yet even quite begun yet.
that's right. So sila yung nauna. In his words, sir, they're in desperate need. Hindi daw kaya ng local government.
It's really the flooding that we're going to have to deal with. So, anong gagawin natin?
Sir, yung DND siguro ang
No,
mauna,
sir,
sir.
as we speak, we're pushing forward the additional rubber boats to proceed to the Solcom area and already give instructions, sir, that we have to source some from Mindanao and the Visayas. J3 is working on it to Marshall already, sir, and if possible, we can even airdrop them in.
Okay.
Sir, for the same area, the food packs are being withdrawn already. I was also talking to Congressman El Rey yesterday. The first 50,000 he's already taking now.
So
Yes,
they're
and I
able
told
to
him to
use
keep
it.
on withdrawing as he needs.
Alright. So, ganun na nga yung mga assets because waterborne assets ang kailangan natin yung maliliit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think for now, we pretty much covered everything that we can do. We are, except for the Bicol region, except for Region 5, we are still in the preparation stage. Region 5, pag-umpisa na talaga ng kasi basta pwede nang pasukin, the public works is going to work to open all the thoroughfares. Those areas that are isolated, kagaya ng mga 300
300 barangays out of 600, sir.
Kalahati ng
Yes,
probinsya.
yes, sir. Are fully submerged.
Sir, it's because Camarines or the Bicol River
Yeah,
Basin,
it's river basin talaga.
yun po yung Albay and Camarines
Exactly.
Norte, papunta sa
Correct.
Albay.
Correct.
Mr. President, nandito po yung
That's why
General
lagi naiipon dyan eh.
Apo. Mr. President, nandito po yung General Manager ng Philippine Ports Authority. Tingnan natin kung nagugutom yung mga stranded doon. Mr. J. Santiago.
Good morning po, Mr. President.
Yes, good morning.
Well, ano lang po, tama po yung sinabi po ni Sec Bautista po kanina. As of 6 a.m. po kanina, nasa 5,329 passengers po yung stranded natin and 994 vehicles. So what we have been doing po, every time naman po na meron po tayong ganitong situation, lahat po ng terminals natin sa stranded, we provide them hot meals po, no? Pero ano lang po, Mr. President, normally lugaw po na mainit kasi wala naman po sa budget po natin
That's
yan.
exactly what I was saying.
Opo. But what we do po is we do it po out of pocket po ng mga empleyado din po natin.
We should have a more, hindi pwedeng ganun lang mga ad hoc. Thank you very much, and I'm sure it is a big help to those who are but the government should have
Sir.
a more systematic way of looking after them.
Mr. President, if I may.
oo.
Right now, we augment the hot meals, pero we're about to come up with our DOST ready-to-eat box.
Oo.
It's a day box na lahat na siya kakainin mo na lang. There are protein bars and all those stuff. Galing sa DOST. So we're about to launch it next month. So yun yung mas systematic way of doing it.
But that's something that yan ang talagang fell through the cracks na hindi natin napaghandaan. But so I'm glad it came out in the news. Ikaw ba yung in-interview?
Yes po, Mr. President.
Sabi ko na nga ba?
In fact po, if I may, ano po sana kami, request po kami sa kila Secretary Rex na once those food items are ready, baka po pwedeng mag-preposition po sa mga terminals po natin na malalaki
Ganun
para
din. We'll just do the same thing
Thank you, sir.
with a specific sa yung mga stranded na pasahero pag sinara yung mga puerto.
Yes, Mr. President, when we procure that, patapos na ho, it's coming. The ready-to-eat boxes will pre-position sa mga pier po.
Alright. So, sino pa? What else? Yes, please, go ahead.
So yung tungkol po doon sa power interruption, actually napaka-importante po na yung tungkol dyan sa interruption to make it short as much as possible because most of the water supplies in the provinces are also relying on the power.
No, it's a perfectly reasonable demand to bring
Yes,
that
sir.
power as quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible.
Ang daming hindi magawa hanggat may power.
And at the same time, sir, some of the cold chain in the hospitals
Isa pa yun.
are also reliant on
Tama,
power
isa
supply.
pa yun, no?
So it's important that these are some of the humanitarian aspects that we have to look into.
No
Thank you, sir.
doubt. No doubt. It's just that there is that that is that long-term effect which we have to pay attention to as well.
Mr. President, and as you pointed out, we have to avoid the possible electrocution of people. That's why we have to check the lines first. NEA coordinates that with the electric co-ops before we can restore.
It's really we all want to bring the power back as quickly as possible. Pero bawat metro ng linya kailangan inspeksyonin na walang putol, walang nag-short, walang kundi pag inon yan, puputok lang lahat yan. Magkasunog pa, may masaktan pa.
Mr. President, with respect to the power, I remember we will just have to marshal it again in the onset of El Nino. We made sure all the hospitals had generating equipment and other water facilities. So we'll just make sure that those are up to speed.
Well, as long as we have been able to provide the equipment, kaya naman. Well, between the generator and the water purification machines. Yeah.
Mr. President, DOH, for those which it is running and supporting, they have provided for gensets for all of this. So that's at least for 4 to 8 hours, they are able to provide for emergency power. So we can draw on that.
Yun ang limit, Mr. President. Usually we cannot use the genset for long periods of time. They're only for like that temporary power interruption. Then kailangan bumalik yung power din. Pag continuous nasisira yung genset.
So, hindi kaya. It's not designed for that.
It's not designed for continuous power supply.
Oo. No, there's no doubt we have to bring the power back as quickly as we can, safely. So we'll do that. That's exactly what we will do. That's what we always do. Well, our procedures seem to be in place. There are little adjustments that we have to make for the specific situation, but right now we will just have to wait for the storm to pass and see what the effects will be. It's mukhang maliwanag na it's really the flooding that we are going to have to worry about. Not so much the infrastructure damage from winds. It's really going to be infrastructure damage and threat to life of the flooding that's going to happen. So the evacuation, tuloy-tuloy na natin yung Northern Luzon, kung saan yung talagang tatamaan, mag-evacuate naman. Sanay naman kami dyan. So the point being, since the storms pass in our area all the time, people are not so hard to convince na mag-evacuate muna. Basta't meron silang warning, gagawin naman ng mga local government executives. All right, I think we've covered as many things as we possibly can without seeing the final effects of the storm. So, okay, let's go. Let's prepare. Everybody knows what they need to do. Maraming salamat. Thank you, sir.
Question, Kristine related questions.
Sa program po yun. Okay. Pumayag ng Kongreso or sa contingent funds.
Check. Check. Mic check.
Siguro naman napanood ninyo, ganun din. What essentially what we are doing is going through our regular SOPs at maayos naman. Mukhang the departments were ready. Ang nangyari lang talaga is that we looked at specific cases around the country kung ano yung kanilang specific na pangangailangan. Right now, it's really Region 5 that was hit first at saka mabigat. Unfortunately, Region 5 was almost on the periphery. Hanggang nasa gilid na nung coverage area ng storm. So pagpasok nitong center ng storm, pag-eye of the storm, papasok na sa Northern Luzon, baka maging masyadong mabigat, kaya kailangan paghandaan na mabuti. And we are doing everything we can to get assistance pre-position. That's always the key. People evacuated properly, get our goods and equipment pre-position as close as possible without them having the risk of damage para malapit na sila doon sa area kailangan nilang servisan pagka dumaan na yung bagyo. And that's essentially what we did. And again, we've included all of the different agencies. Of course, the NDRMC led by the DND, and they are prepared to provide, number one, from the AFP, airlift, kasi may mga kalsada hindi pa madaanan. And number two, they are continuing with the AFP is also continuing to monitor the situation so that we will be able to activate the EDCA sites which were put there specifically for this purpose. So the other departments seem to be well prepared. We have some budgeting issues simply because na meron tayong napakarami ang dumadaan na bagyo. Hindi bale, but that's not something that we should worry about because we will be able to remedy that.
Mr. President,
yes.
we expected a much stronger onslaught of the typhoon.
Yeah.
Will it be possible na ma-extend the suspension of classes and what for the
It all depends on the weather. Yes, very possible. Unfortunately, very possible. Oh, because we're losing so many days, days of work, days of classes. But what can you do? Nandyan ang bagyo. Hindi naman natin ilalagay yung mga tao sa peligro. Oh.
Sir, former Vice President Leder Bread was asking for help, in particular yung mga rubber boats. How soon?
Yeah, as soon as we can get in. As soon as makapasok kami. We will be doing that, and we are now beginning to marshal our assets, like for example rubber boats hanggang Mindanao. Kukunin na muna namin at dadalhin namin dito sa area na pangangailangan. We just got that report from Kamsur that half the province is underwater because they live in that the basin within Albay and Kamsur. Kaya yun ang talagang tinatamaan lagi ng baha. So as soon as we can, we will go in. As soon as we can. Kung kailangan, di naman mailipad ng helicopter yun. So kailangan truck ang magpapasok. Oo. So as soon as mag-clear, alam naman ng DPWH ang gagawin nila. Nakamonitor naman sila. Nandun naman ang mga tao nila, mga regional officers, para magsabi when they can come in. So that's what we're waiting for now. So we are at the mercy of the weather, as we always are. So we will just have to wait for the true effects of this typhoon, Kristine. All right? Thank you.
Sir, nag-uula kami sa kulay ng jacket. Kanina po